shit. So apparently, there have never been times in our history where there has actually been negative population growth, and by that I mean a decrease in population. The
Yeah,
population has always been increasing. I think apparently Neff thinks that the huge boom in population since the 1940s till now apparently has been constant. That's
yeah.
probably
Yeah,
what he
I'd,
thinks.
I'd, I always love that claim because I always come back to it with this. A single bacteria can double its population within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Therefore, if a bacteria doubles every 24 hours, the calculation would be roughly nearly 5,000 tons. So therefore, bacteria don't exist.
I also learned that the mitochondrial Eve and the Y chromosome Adam, which are about 80,000 years apart in our history, they're bottleneck events in human genetic history. They were both caused by the flood.
Yes.
Really?
So presumably the mitochondrial Eve is Eve, and mitochondrial Adam is Noah.
It's Y chromosome Adam.
A Y chromosome, sorry.
Yes.
That makes perfect sense. Another one which I quite like was that we discovered that when Neff said he was a geocentrist, he misspoke. The fact that he has also made videos defending geocentrism
Open-minded
and
about
saying,
both. There's apparently ample evidence for both of them, according to him. There is
yeah, but
equal evidence.
the point was that he made a video in which he defended geocentrism. He was talking about, if you've ever seen time-lapse
Yes.
photos of stars, he was saying it is impossible to get concentric circles if the Earth were moving around the sun.
Well, just that, but he says he misspoke. But okay, it's not like in the video he said, "I'm a geocentrist." The end. He said, "I'm a geocentrist," and he's like, "I know that sounds crazy that the Earth, that the sun spins around the Earth."
But it's true.
Like, that's geocentrism. You didn't misspeak and just said that you believe in something. You called it by the wrong title. You called you.
Yeah.
You defended the geocentrist point of view, you fucking idiot.
But as I said, I've just put a picture on the screen of concentric time-lapse of stars, and he said that such a picture would be impossible if the Earth were not the center of the universe, which of course was thoroughly debunked by Andromeda's work. Sorry,
He's
Chris,
never
you
played
were
with a
saying
top, apparently. What a sad, pathetic childhood. We've also learned that there's never been an observed instance of erosion in any geological layers around the world.
I know, in spite of the number of times that I told him that we do find erosion in the rock record and we do find mixing of strata, he just carried on saying that they don't exist.
We also learned. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry, I have a bunch of these. We also learned that Nephilim Free has a concrete porch near him, but has never seen mud collect on it.
We've also learned that Nephilim Free can read the title of a paper and know that it exactly verifies his statement without reading the whole thing.
Or that everything in it is wrong. That was the other one, which we haven't discussed yet.
Yeah, that too.
Who was it that presented a paper to him?
Everyone?
Well, true. But it was somebody, I can't remember who it was, somebody in the chat might be able to
Well,
remember.
Pointman Zero gave him one he
That's
never
right.
read, but
Yeah.
we were tackling the papers that Nephilim Free himself were quoting and linking to, and we were showing, if you read the rest of this article...
Yeah.
Oh, yes, you also learn that Neff, whenever he cites a paper, it's always gospel, but if you do the same, it's automatically wrong.
Yeah, there was a great moment when Pointman Zero showed him a paper to support Pointman Zero's case, and he said, now, what do you think is wrong with that with that paper? If you think there is something wrong with it, then we'll discuss it. He just said, well, everything.
What, that you are a genius, and he's like, everything.
Yeah. I mean, we're not making that up. He genuinely said...
He didn't even look at it. He's just like, everything's wrong with it. Of course.
But in case you're wondering, this will be put up on the internet. We're currently chewing over the enormous audio file, but it will be put up in segments on YouTube. I suspect we'll put it on the Skeptic TV show channel.
Has there been another Nephilim Free debate?
Yeah.
Hello, Blue. Welcome to the show. Chris, you were going
We
to
have
say.
our resident
Yeah, I was going to say,
alcoholic.
we also
evening,
learned
everyone.
that organisms have backup genes, but not all genes have backups. But yet DNA repair will go in, use a backup gene to repair all deformities in an organism.
Yeah, and we argued this till we were blue in the face that he was talking about DNA damage rather than mutation, because it is well known that.
You do know that's the same thing, of course.
Yeah, it was like, no, it isn't. And I read in something which clearly
Yes,
said
we
that they
also
are
learned
not
that
the
that's
same.
the same thing.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
also learned that if we have photographs of each stage of a planet forming, it isn't observing a planet forming unless we have a video of it from start to finish.
It
Is
would
this
be a
on
very
topic?
long video.
Also, there is no standard of evidence that is great enough for Neff because apparently our models are not unless we can actually crash a planet into another planet.
Yeah, and then he turns to some hydrology experiments done by creationists and said, look, that's a lab experiment. It must be true.
We
We
also
never called
learned
him out on that, did we? That's
Guys.
disappointing.
Guys,
What?
are we supposed to be
Yes,
talking
we-
about morality?
we're doing the
we're
news
talking about
section.
the
That's
news.
after the news, please.
Oh, this is the news.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Blue. For someone who never shows up, I think it's cute that you tell us how to do the show.
We also learned that if you put sand and water in a jar, shake it up, and let it settle, that proves that layers don't get formed over millions of years.
Of course.
But anyway, I think
There's so many
move on.
more. You have to watch it. Cactopus has it linked on his channel. You can go see it. It's hilarious how many things he gets so wrong, and we're trying to correct him. And he just rambles on and on telling us what we believe and telling us we can't interrupt him when he just talks for 5 minutes.
Is this
Because
debate on YouTube, by the way?
I'm trying to ask a question, and we're like, so ask it. He's like, I need 10 more seconds. And by that, he means 10 more minutes.
to ask
And he
the
goes,
same
I
question.
want anyone to answer me. Here's my question. Blah, 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 question mark. And then you believe this and this and this and this and this. This is what... Why won't anyone answer me?
Because you answered your own question, apparently.
Anyway, I think we'll move on from there. But as I said, it will be on YouTube within the next week.
I think it is on YouTube. There's a 4-hour video on
Is
it.
it? Oh, okay, I've seen people linking stuff in chat. I was about to tell them off for spamming, but if that's the actual video.
Yeah,
then-
Cactopus is linking the 4-hour call.
Yeah, it's on.
So anyway, I think we'll move on. The second news item, I prepared loads of quotations that I was going to read to you, but then I realised that I had to remotely connect to Colin's computer, and so I now haven't got access to them.
Yes.
But it's something that I wanted to talk about, and I can't remember his name now, so you can look him up. But
Oliver?
the BBC, no, not Oliver. We will hear from him in due course.
So are you telling me that evolution is real?
I really am not in the mood for being told right now.
There's going to be a mad at a hunty if you do.
But no, I've managed to find the photo of the person I was talking about. I'll put it up on the screen. This happened about 2 weeks ago, actually, and I wanted to talk about it 2 weeks ago, but we didn't have a show then. This is an interview that the BBC had with a stock market trader to talk about the Eurozone recovery plan and to give his opinion on it. And he said the most outrageous things to the point whereby people wrote into the BBC asking if it was a hoax, but he is actually genuine.
Okay.
And I've lost his name again. But
Just American.
I don't think, no, he's not an American, he's a Brit, but he said, you think that the governments rule the world, Goldman Sachs rules the world, and Goldman Sachs doesn't care what happens to the Eurozone. They don't care if it goes completely bankrupt. They've lost all faith in the euro, they've lost all faith in the US dollar, and so they've taken all their money out of it and put it into, what did he call it? Bonds of some kind. But and he also said that he goes to bed every night dreaming that there'll be another recession because he can make tons of money out of it.
What a dick.
Well, this is the thing. Yeah, everybody says what a dick, and I kind of brought this up because it kind of ties in with the whole morality thing. But what he also said was that anybody can make money off it. You don't have to be a stockbroker to make money off it. You just have to read up on about it. And admittedly, he has a book on the subject, so it's possible that he was basically trying to get sales for that. But he was saying anybody can make money out of it, and he also, because he is not, he's an independent trader, he's not employed by anybody, he can basically give completely impartial advice. And so he said to everyone, what you need to do is to tie up all your assets, because I predict that within the next 12 months, the savings of millions of people will mysteriously disappear.
What?
So you need to protect all that. I know it's a really chilling thought, but he obviously had good intentions behind
I
it.
think he's full of shit. I think he's just trying to sell his book.
Well, he may well have been, I don't know. But it was, as I say, it was such an outrageous thing. Basically, he is, I should say, I found his name now, his name is Alessio Rastani. But he was basically, as far as we know, speaking the truth, because it is true that big business has far more power over our lives than our governments do, as much as we like to think so.
Yes.
Hooray for credit unions.
Well, exactly. But so yeah, I just wanted to bring that up and get your opinion on it. I don't really know what else I have to say about it, but it was quite a chilling and startling thing just to come out on television without any warning about it.
I'd do it for the lulz. That's what afterwards.
Well, maybe he is, or maybe he is being serious. As I say, he's got no kind of allegiances politically,
except to himself and to make money. And by money, he sells his shitty book. And by selling and to get his shitty book to sell, he scares the shit out of a bunch of people who are stupid.
I should say, in case the lawyers are watching, Mr. Rastani's book is of the highest caliber.
If his lawyers are watching, they can suck my dick.
I only caught the last word of that sentence. Actually,
I said if his lawyers are watching, they can suck my dick, and I'll go all answers and books on their ass. I'm not afraid of any fucking fear mongering assholes.
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Accepted.
I fear no man.
We'll have to wait and see in the next 12 months if the Eurozone does get bust, if he makes tons of money out of it, and if our savings mysteriously disappear. I'll put the name in chat because people were asking for it. But yeah, so is it a case of good morals or bad morals?
I still think he's full of shit. So, I think it's horrible to put someone. It's okay to want to be prosperous, but putting yourself over hundreds of thousands, possibly, or millions, according to this, millions of people's supposed savings are going to disappear, is completely ridiculous and absolutely horrendous. I am probably a borderline socialist, and here in America, socialism bad. So if I say that around some of my friends, they'd freak the fuck out. But yeah,
but we'll have to wait and see what happens, and it could be we end up regretting not listening to him.
I severely doubt that we'll regret anything, but
who
knows?
Of course, you don't have to buy his book to learn how to make money out of the recession. You need to do plenty of digging. But
Ultimate lulz, just download his book, or an ebook version online. That's the ultimate way to fuck with that guy. Nope, you're not shit.
And say download it illegally so he doesn't get any money. I'm not condoning illegally downloading anything, if anybody.
I am.
Anyway, that was all I had to say about that. The last news item, which we talked about before, but we just thought it would be a good opportunity to pimp the 12-hour show, which we are going to be doing on December the 10th. If anyone would like to talk about that, while I get the next thing queued up.
Chris?
You?
Just remind everybody what we're going to be doing on December the 10th.
As far as I'm aware, we're going to be partying for about 12 hours straight, and we're going to have special guests, and we're going to have reminders to help donate to the Secular Student Alliance, organization that helps high school and college. What?
I was kind of having a giggling fit.
Oh, thank you, Lewis.
Ignore me. Sorry.
We wish we could.
Oh.
Yes, we are. Yeah, we're going to be to celebrate the original Neffy 12-hour debate, which we had almost a year ago. It was kind of fitting that we had another one yesterday. So yeah,
It's
we're
funny
gonna
how that works. Almost.
Well, it makes me worry that we're going to have to do a 12-hour show on December the 10th as a tribute to that, and we're going to have to do a 4-hour show on November the 19th as a tribute to the one yesterday, and then F will call us again, and it'll never end. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, we don't have to do a tribute to that 4-hour show. There was absolutely nothing to gain from that one.
Memorable, especially because the puppy turtle was part of the call, and he just like completely raped parts of that conversation. No.
Didn't he say that even the Film Free told him to shut up at one time?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was
Puppy Turtle was interrupting him.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, I also learned that Chris is apparently a punk. Yeah. Although
I am a 35-year-old, 12-year-old.
Yeah, that's not a new idea. He's been called a punk and a kid for ages. Yeah, so we are going to be doing a 12-hour show to raise money for the Secular Students Alliance, which is a USA-based organisation, although they are spreading to other parts of the world. And they are, they not only encourage proper science education in schools, so rather like the National Centre for Science Education, or whatever it's called, that Eugenie Scott's in, but also, for instance, if there is an atheist organisation trying to set up in a school, and the school tells them that they can't, they can basically step in and try and help them out.
Call the lawyers.
Yeah, call the lawyers, basically. So they are a very good cause and still greatly underappreciated. And as part of the fundraiser, we are going to be having an eBay auction in the style of the DPR Jones one for NSF. And first of all, I'd like to say that we are asking for any items that you've got that you would like to auction for us. It doesn't matter what it is. We're not allowed to sell, I think, food and pets and adult material, but that's about it.
We will be selling some cactus, and cactus.
If you go to the blog, SkepticTV.net, there is an article there explaining all the information you need to know about sending us something for auction, or you can just send me an email at sound@skeptictv.net, and I'll get back to you telling you what you need to do. We're also very pleased to announce that we have been donated a pencil drawing done by, remind me of his name. His name is Anonymous5, I think, on YouTube. And I'm going to play it now. This is a time lapse of him sketching it. And this is going into the auction. I think we've already got a little bidding war on our hands between two of the members of Skeptic TV. But as you'll see,
stupid.
This takes about 3 minutes to draw, but it is a absolutely fantastic portrait. Can anyone tell who it is yet?
James Randi.
It's not James Randi, although very similar. The facial hair is very similar.
My high school biology teacher.
I imagine the facial hair is very similar on that as well.
My penis with a beard.
But it's too big, Lewis.
No, it's too... Fuck you.
Robert
It's under a
Pattinson.
microscope, obviously.
Fuck is Robert Pattinson?
He was what you call it, that vampire guy in Twilight.
Oh, person. I'm sorry I insulted the gays by comparing that dude from Twilight to gay people. That's an insult to gay people.
I'm gonna have to drive down to Texas and kick you in the nuts now.
Dude, you're like 110 pounds. I could eat you and shit you out.
So my foot and your nuts still hurts.
My nuts could consume you.
We have gone back to junior high on Skeptic TV.
Oh no, not junior high. The flashbacks.
Well, Chris should be used to it. He's a 35-year-old, 12-year-old, so whatever.
Fish of Time show managed to get it. It is a picture of Charles Darwin. It's still a little bit left to play on the video, but I'll let it play all the way through.
Yes.
Doesn't it make you sick that people can be that talented?
Yeah, it makes me jelly. Feels bad, man.
Yeah, but he's using his talents for good.
He is. We're very grateful.
If I could draw that well, I would draw like porn. Or erotic images, I guess.
Oh, I imagine Anonymous 5 does as well. It's always good to have a sideline.
So you're a furry.
I didn't know because I wouldn't draw animals and shit fucking one another. I would draw people fucking one another.
There's not an awful lot of money to be made in sketching 19th century biologists, so.
his money in drawing naked chicks with big titties.
Yep.
And,
Otherwise,
and I've now offended half of our viewing audience, probably.
Nice.
Yeah, you do that every week. I'm sure people know not to listen by now.
Don't hold it against him, ladies. He's Texan.
I'm like the Joe Biden of this fucking group.
He is the true Texan tank. What are you now, Lewis? You're like 7'1" and like 300 pounds.
Shit, dude. I'm not fucking Andre the Giant here.
Oh God.
Is it true that you once ate a girder?
A what?
A girder.
What the fuck's a girder?
a steel beam used to hold up buildings. You don't have to
No.
answer that, seriously, Lewis.
I've eaten like a couple pizzas and one standing, though, as a competition. It's about as far as I.
Anyway, there is
It's
a
a-
finished picture in all its glory, and I think that's definitely going to sell very well, because
Entitled with both news and morality. Please shoot someone in the face who went to go see the new Twilight movie because it drew in 72 million on Friday alone.
I'm gonna go kill myself. Oh, somebody had some good ideas about that. Like all the people that were camping out in front of the line. Some people were were saying, "I'm gonna go put up signs saying Occupy Wall Street," so the cops would come beat the shit out of them.
Hey, it works.
occupy.
We're losing our First Amendment. Isn't it hilarious?
Oh, there we are. I do apologise. It's Incredible Mouse. He's actually in the chat, so thank you very much to him.
Yeah, we either have a Poe or a really idiotic. I don't know. What should we call him? Troll? No, not troll.
So
Just somebody who
is it
doesn't know.
Oliver?
No, Keith 1Y.
Okay, that's probably Oliver.
Well, we do have Oliver has already sent us a question. I don't know whether he would like to join us in the call to discuss it.
Oh, okay.
I'll bring him into the room and we'll see whether or not he wants to join us. It'll take
What accent will he be using this week?
Well, I think it's already rumbled that it's going to be him. So if he does do an accent, then it is just for his own amusement.
Zoidberg!
Let me see.
Good news, everyone! I have something to show you.
Everyone report to my room for a private exhibition. All right, we're going to get Oliver into the call. We're seeing if we can get him into the call right now. And if not, then I'll just have to ask his question. But it'd be nice to have him there to discuss it.
Titty sprinkles!
Hello, Oliver.
Hello.
Hello, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'd
For
just
the
like
first-
to argue that without God, we'd be succumbing to our desires. If there was no God, I'd be raping and killing people.
I remember you calling to the Magic Sandwich Show with this. It is nice
yeah.
to have. It is nice to have you as yourself for the first time. So yes, your question was. You said you'd like to ask the panel if they believe in an objective morality, and I think we can all answer that very quickly.
Nope.
Nope.
Chuck Testa.
Nope.
So are you here to convince us that there is a moral objective standard, or?
Oh, I was wondering if there was someone who shared the opinion of Vic. For those who don't know, Vic is a gentleman who we hang out with on the Voxley forum. He's a very strong advocate of objective morality, even though he's an atheist.
Poo.
Well, we've had a lot of heated exchanges with him about that.
It's because Vic is stupid. He thinks he knows everything.
So, does Vic subscribe to any of the major world religions?
No, and
Vic is an atheist.
yeah, and when he's pinned on it, he says it's objective because of the definition of what morality is, or what the definition of being nice is.
Right.
Which, again, the language to me is just, it's a construct that we all buy into. The paradigm that we all sort of subscribe to, or most of us subscribe to, does not equate it being objective. It's everyone's subjectivity kind of together.
Yeah, because I would say, I mean, he believes in an objective morality, but where does he think that objective morality comes from? Because he's obviously not claiming it comes from a god, so he's just saying that it is a kind of a cumulative thing that we all agree on.
Yeah, when we discussed it with him, as well as using definitions in the dictionary to say that it's objective because it's defined this way in the dictionary, he's also talked about what we have a natural propensity for. So has scientist Sam, actually. They've mentioned that we have mirror motor neurons, which means that it's a given that we'll have empathy. I just still disagree with that because I feel that that's a propensity we have, but it's not necessarily going to come to fruition. I mean, we just as much have a propensity to go and kill and rape people if the right buttons are pushed. So I don't think that saying what we could have an inclination to do counts as being objective.
It literally just dawned on me that Oliver is British. I just thought he was bullshitting an accent.
Well, he was with the Brummie thing. And,
well, yes, I know that, but I mean, I thought he was still bullshitting the English one.
Oh, well, that's the price I pay when I do all these accents. You never know what I really sound like.
Yeah, this could not be his real voice. How would you know?
Fuck! Inception.
Presumably, though, he can't... Presumably, though, this Vic, because I've never actually heard of him before today, but he can't think that his objective standard applies to everything, because, quite obviously, if you ask everybody on a specific topic, there are always going to be people who disagree, or at least there are certain topics, like, I don't know, say, homosexuality or whatever. Some people will say it's wrong and some people will say it's right. So, obviously, that objective morality doesn't stretch that far.
Possibly. I mean, I personally just think that it's instilled in us. I mean, it is. I mean, it's. I don't want to say objective, but it is instilled in us in a kind of in a sense. It is instilled in us just through the evolutionary processes of, you know, we are communal animals, because if we weren't, we would have died off long ago. So. It's kind of, it is instilled in us in a sense, but it's not like there's some kind of super deity that told us, okay, you shouldn't rape one another, you shouldn't kill one another. But besides that, I really don't see any kind of moral activism. I think that anything is fair game as long as you're not hurting anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I should say, I forgot to say this at the start of the program, but I have a little challenge for the show, which is I would like anybody, no matter who you are, to try and convince me that there is some valid objection to euthanasia, because
nope, I'm all for euthanasia.
Because I do not understand, I do not know of any what I would consider valid objection. I mean, there are a lot of religious types who say thou shalt not kill, and I'm saying, well, no, and I say, well, not everybody agrees with your religion, so it doesn't matter to you. So I've never yet heard a valid argument against it, but I'm willing to be convinced. So if anyone would like to call in on that. I forgot what I was going to say. Yes, and we're also looking for anyone to try and convince us that an objective standard of morals does actually exist.
Yeah, I'm all for euthanasia, primarily because, for example, I've told my parents that if in any case I would ever end up like Terry Schiavo, to, for God's sake, kill me. And not like they did to her, where they just fucking starved her and she went out like a what? Wait, somebody whispered something I couldn't. Well,
why wait?
No. Yeah. So, I've told them that, like, I don't want to, like, just be left there like a fucking vegetable, just please. And not the way that they did to her, where she kind of went out like a bitch, just, like, starving to death and, like, dehydrated. Like, just do it quick, like what Clint Eastwood did to, what's her name again? Hillary Swank? No, Hillary... Old Yeller. Hillary Swank and $1 Million Baby. Old Yeller. What the fuck?
What? It's a valid comparison.
No, it isn't, but okay, whatever. But yeah, I like Hillary Swank. Anyways,
but yeah, I mean, going back to objective and subjective morality, I should say that I was watching the discussion between Thunderfoot and Ray Comfort.
Oh god, wait, which one?
The most recent one, where they seem to be sitting on a street corner for no apparent reason.
The one that was more pathetic than the first one.
Oh yeah. And admittedly, Ray Comfort was doing his usual sort of clusterfuck of questions whereby you're so confused that you end up saying things that you don't actually agree with because you're just confused. But Thunderfoot seems to be of the opinion that euthanasia is wrong, which surprised me a lot. And it could be that he was confused and he didn't mean to say that, but it does surprise me slightly. And also there's also, I don't like the fact that Ray Comfort said that it's written in the Bible, thou shalt not kill, but then he says if a man broke into his house, yeah, I'd kill him and it's fine.
Motherfucker. Well, obviously didn't say that, but I wish he would.
He said first I would shoot him in the leg and then work my way up.
That's kind of fucked up.
It's very Christian, yes.
Extremely Christian. I'm all for killing people who are in my house unwantedly. That's why I have a shotgun.
But Thunderfoot was in his characteristic style. He was talking of morality in terms of benefit to society and benefit to the individuals, and the play off
with that phony British accent, so he would sound smarter.
Yeah, but it was kind of an interesting concept because it's when we say rape is wrong, and the Christians say, well, that the fact that you say it in those terms means that it is. It comes from an objective moral standpoint. Could it not just be that in the case of, if you're weighing it up in Thunderfoot's terms, there is no benefit to society of rape whatsoever, and therefore it can't be right by anybody's standards?
Well, what about the rapist gratification?
Well, so there is a benefit to the individual, which is the rapist, but there really isn't any benefit to society as far as I can think of.
Well, whenever I rape, it's normally just for me. It's not for anyone else. So.
Well, I know, but I'm saying that's why it should be wrong, because it is a completely selfish act.
Yeah, that's true.
I think you're not going to find anyone who disagrees, but if someone did disagree and put their gratification above the well-being of the person getting raped, let's say this person has a higher opinion of men than he does of women, this is why it's harder to not accept objective morality, because there's nothing I can say that my opinion's better than his. I can say that it's sort of defective on his part. He's strayed away from our common temperaments to find such a thing abhorrent, but I can't actually say objectively he is wrong and I'm right.
Well, it's also because, I mean, yes, of course there isn't, but then again, we can't, if we did that, I mean, society would break down. So there is a whole trying to keep society from falling apart thing going for us.
Because this is what Venom Fang X said, isn't it? He said if you don't have objective morals, then surely survival of the fittest says that those people who steal, kill, rape, etc. are more likely to succeed, and therefore that's a positive thing.
That's pretty ironic coming from a sociopath. I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, this is. I mean, people have this idea about natural selection, and they say that that's all there is, and that an immoral stance is a more Darwinianly successful one. But and there's also this question of why you get violent people and why people who are more likely to win wars are more likely to pass on their genes and so on. But it's always a balance, in that any society needs people who are deterred from violence and anarchy and things like that, but you also need those people who are prepared to defend it. So it's not particularly difficult to explain from a Darwinian point. And I've killed Jack. What was I going to say? I don't know. I should say I didn't sleep last night.
Quick, dance.
If you guys haven't been paying attention, we're having a nice little text argument in the chat. We have the usual the usual arguments about objective morals, objective moral giver. The Bible proves that there's a God because there's eyewitness testimony.
Well, who is it that's saying these in chat? Because I would like to have them call in if possible.
Yeah, Sim Lords, Keith 1Y, the same old overly debunked stuff that we keep hearing from creationists and people who want God to be valid.
Sorry to interrupt, but he was talking about Sim Lords. Apologies to Keith and Sim Lords because they've kind of been mixed in as one to be interchangeable. But yeah, when he said he's talking about the Bible, he was referring to Sim Lords, not you, Keith. But please do.
I did say Sim Lords and Keith 1Y. They're both
Holy
talking.
shit! Did you guys did you guys hear that they're apparently going to ban women from showing their eyes in Saudi Arabia
Ah,
because eyes are too seductive? I am not kidding.
Yeah, the only bit that they were allowed to show.
Yeah, the only bit that they were allowed to show is apparently way too much for men in Saudi Arabia to resist the urge to fuck them or rape them or something.
You know, what I've come to realize in Arabia is exactly like the people who are so afraid to handshake because they'll get germs. If you don't test your body once in a while with germs, when you do get a germ, you're going to get super, super sick. You could possibly die from it because your body hasn't had time to react to other germs in smaller quantities. It's just like in Arabia. They don't see women enough so that the first time they actually do see a woman, their hormones just go, oh, I got to do something about it. You know, so they try to cover the women instead of just letting women be women. And when they see them all the time, they won't have the reaction that they have to jump on those women and have sex.
It's kind of like, have you seen, for those who have seen the movie, what's the name of that? God, now I'm blank. Charlie Wilson's War. Tom Hanks, who is playing Charlie Wilson, a congressman from Texas. Do you think those people would be happier if they could have women and alcohol in the same room? And that's a very valid point. I mean, these people. I mean, it's such a self-repressing culture. It's pretty amazing to me how. I mean, no wonder they're so pissed off.
I know. I mean, I can understand the point. I mean, that picture I've just put on the channel. I mean, that looks like a laundry basket, which I think is probably the least sexy thing you can ever look at. But I mean,
yeah, that's pretty sexy.
I've never been able to buy this idea that it's men being unable to control themselves. And even if that is the case, why is it not the men who get prosecuted for these things?
Yeah.
Because obviously the woman was asking for it, dude. Come on.
the woman should have known not to blink so slowly because that's just way too sexy for the man to control himself.
To keep it in his fucking pants.
What if you've got something in your eye, though? Mm.
Oh, the super dilemma, like, fuck!
Well, if they were a real Muslim, they would have heard God tell them to close their eyes for that 1 second that particle of dust would have entered their eye.
But not close it for too long, because otherwise you're back to square one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm glad I'm not Muslim.
Yay for the UK.
You can't have bacon. No, is it Islam? You can't have bacon. Anyway, ignore that.
Well, it kind of reminds me of something. Do you know who Jimmy Carr is, James?
I do know who Jimmy Carr is.
Yeah, he was. I saw a clip of him talking. Someone was like, "Well, we all know that Scientology is a made-up religion," and he's like, "As opposed to what?"
I'm trying to think of my favourite Jimmy Carr joke now.
For those of you who didn't understand the joke, all religions are made up.
Yeah, I think we all joke.
Does that include Mormonism?
No, that's the special.
That's not a religion. That's just a scam.
I think the person who came up with it was genuinely convinced, but I think they might have been under the influence of some kind of narcotics at the time, because it is just.
We're talking about Scientology Mormonism.
I think have I shared the story of Mormonism with you? It's too long for me to tell.
No, the one with Mormonism, the guy was a convicted fraud.
Joseph Smith, you mean, the guy who claimed to have found
Joseph Smith was a fraud, and he apparently thought that I guess the greatest way to get attention would be like, I went into the woods where God told me to find these gold tablets. Dum 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 dum. And only he could translate them, and nobody else could see them. So apparently, people think this is legitimate. I mean, I was talking to some Mormons on my campus, and I'm sorry, I'm going off topic. Never mind.
Well, not exactly. But I should say, there's somebody in chat who says he just wanted a whole load of wives, and I will say now that Mormonism seems to be a very convenient religion. Where the prime example being when the church was about to be taken to court because it excluded black people, one of them miraculously had a vision from God saying, now black people are allowed in too.
Yeah, that's some quick question. Sammy G said continue. A thumbs up if you want me to continue with the story about the Mormons, or I'll just shut the hell up.
I won't tell the whole story because it does go on a lot.
That's true.
But what interested me was somebody in chat was saying that the guy just wanted to have lots of marriages. And this is another thing which I wanted to bring up, which is that I do not understand why having an affair is not illegal in the UK or the US, but having multiple marriages is. I mean, obviously the Mormons, at least in America, make an exception. I don't think you're allowed to do that in the
That is really that's a really good question. I've never thought of that. Like, well, I guess maybe because they already figure that if your wife catches you cheating, you're already going to get fucked when she takes half of your shit anyways, so...
But it's, well...
you don't really need any more insult to injury there.
The point is, you know, if a man says to both his wife and his mistress, you know, I love you both equally, why can we not get married as a trio?
Because congressmen cheat on their wives all the time, so it's not very, what's the word?
But we're not talking about... But we're not necessarily talking about cheating here. We are talking about between consenting adults. There's no reason why.
Well, yeah, that's having an affair, though. Then you say, why isn't having an affair illegal? I mean, isn't cheating having an affair when you're sleeping with another woman? That's an affair, and that's cheating.
But that's not illegal.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. Because it's not illegal. Because congressmen cheat on their wives all the time, probably, so it's not beneficial for them for it to be illegal.
Yeah, but,
well, if multiple marriages was illegal, then you wouldn't have to be like Newt Gingrich and have to choose to stay with your dying wife or blow her off with the girl you're cheating on her with. You could just have both.
It's so terrible. That's true.
Well,
it's even more terrible because he's running on family values now.
A skeptical heretic is making a point in chat, which is the only thing I can think is the objection to it is that it is a legal minefield, simply because how do you go about tax and so on? Because you could have people marrying under one.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think. You know, marriage certificates. Do you marry? Does the second wife marry just the husband, or the husband and the wife? And what does that mean in terms of benefits and child support?
Everyone has to marry everyone.
But so that's the only thing. The only objection I can think is that it is illegal simply to avoid abuse of the system and having to come up with all this legislation. But I cannot understand any kind of moral objection to it.
If you really are in love with, if three people really are in love to the point where they can stay like that, then they don't need marriage to do that. They could just be they could just say that they're an open couple.
Yeah.
Puppy Turtle, if you're listening to the show, no, you cannot join the call.
Okay.
Well, I object to that because he does support objective morality, and he has said that objective morality is purged into our hearts. I've asked this question to him.
I think it would be nice to have him on the show and to debate it with him.
No, fair enough.
I fucking hate you, Sound. I fucking hate you.
Well, I don't care if you hate me. I'm in charge of this show. Oliver, it's been great having you on the show, but I'd like to move on now. So thank you very much for calling in.
All right, thanks.
And thank you for not poing us this time.
I will fly to England and rape your brain out, James.
No, you won't, you love. Okay. And
I will take your mother out on a nice seafood dinner and then never call her again.
Ooh.
I think you're being a little bit mean to Puppy Turtle here. Right now, I'm going to bring Puppy Turtle in.
Okay.
This shall be fun.
I'll just mute my mic.
It has been a while since we had him on the show. I mean, we don't let that one do it.
And today you will be reminded why it was a long time.
But it'll be some stimulating debate. It's going to be fun.
Stimulating like my penis.
Well,
That depends on who you ask.
Hello, Puppy Turtle.
Hello. Lef,
Hello.
I am sorry that I told Neff that you were going to snatch his sight. I should not
Just
have done.
shut up, puppy. I don't give a shit. Shut up and continue and tell us why we're wrong and you're right.
I'm a Christian. I believe in objective morality. I mean, the objection that was brought up was the argument from disagreement. The problem is that we would not apply that to anything else. Nothing else we would believe is not objective because of disagreement. That wouldn't apply to sight. That wouldn't apply to hearing. That wouldn't apply to anything else that we think is objective, that we're sensing. So why does it apply? Why is it that when people disagree on morality, it's not possible that one of them is simply wrong?
So hang on a minute.
Either wrong about. More likely it seems to me that they would be wrong about the circumstances surrounding the action, the misinformation, like the elites from Halo. If they did not believe humanity was an evil heresy against their religion, they would not have committed their genocide.
So in that case, Puffy, I would like to ask you, so you're of the opinion that there is an objective morality and that morality comes from God, and it is...
virtue ethicist.
But it is detailed in the Bible?
No, certainly not, or at least not extensively.
So which parts of the Bible do you agree with, and which parts of the Bible do you disagree with?
I don't believe that in the Bible God ever does anything that I would consider to be immoral, but it's not an extensive moral guide in the sense that it explains what morality is, what you should do, and what you shouldn't do extensively, simply because we have an intuition, we know that instinctively.
Okay, let me ask a question, Puppy. You don't think there's anything that God did that would be considered immoral in the Bible?
If you consider objectively all of the known consequences of the action, no. It may appear immoral if you're thinking subjectively and emotionally, and aren't considering it with your actual logical mind, which is what atheists typically do.
Well, don't do what Neff does. Don't tell what other people believe. We're here about your point. Don't say atheists believe this.
If you look at it objectively and consider all of the consequences of all of God's actions in the Bible, you will find that he always did the most moral thing that he could have reasonably been expected to do.
Okay. Well, do you believe that God is omnipotent and omniscient?
Define those.
He has the ability to do anything, and he knows everything.
I would say no, then.
So how do you know that the God of the Bible exists, then, if he wasn't the one who created everything?
Did I say that?
You just said you don't think he has power to do anything. How could he create everything, according to the Bible, if he doesn't have the power to do anything?
Oh, no, you said he has. You said omnipotent. You said he has the power to do everything. I would add some exceptions to that.
Like what?
I would add mainly two. One, he can't create something that for logical reasons cannot by definition exist. Because there's something that could exist that he can't create. Just because you can't have a married bachelor, merely because if it's married, it's not a bachelor.
But that gets into philosophy.
The second caveat I would add is his ability to do something does not mean he ever would do something. So to an extent, it's as if he was limited by what he would do, even though he's technically not, I suppose.
Okay. So, but you do believe that God created everything in this world?
Yes.
Okay. So, why would God create Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, and the tree, knowing that the tree being there would cause the fall of mankind, and he would have to and he would have to continuously cause genocide, where he had to wipe out everyone, and in the Christian Bible, Book of Revelations, everyone's going to be whisked back up into heaven, or they're going to be slaughtered during the coming of the Antichrist. Why would God create everything like this if it wasn't part of his plan to be an immoral bastard and to wipe everyone out multiple times?
I mean, firstly, I'm not a young Earth creationist, so I don't.
Old Earth creationists still believe God created everything, including Adam and Eve.
Okay, we don't need to worry about whether he's a young Earth creationist or an old Earth creationist. But I suppose if you believe in the creation of Adam and Eve and that occurs at a certain point, then I suppose you do have to accept a certain time scale.
So why would he create those knowing what they would do?
Well, to put it this way, Puppy, do you believe that the events depicted in that part of Genesis with the creation of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, do you believe that that took place?
No.
Right, okay.
So why do you pick and choose what you want to believe out of a Bible that is the basis for your religion?
Because I don't pick and choose. I interpret it in the way that makes the most sense.
But there isn't a different way to interpret that God created the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve.
Yes, there is. It's possible to take it allegorically and take that as a symbolic account of either something that really happened or a message that's trying to be laid across.
Well, then I have a question.
I was still here, Yoshimo. So you're choosing to believe what parts of the Bible mean something and what can be taken literally, but you have no idea how to know which to take literally and which not to. You're choosing. So everything you believe is subjective based on your preference.
No, it's based on my logic and it's based on reality.
It's based on your logic. It is subjective to your personal bias. It is not based on any objective person or entity.
I mean, it has to do with what interpretations make the most sense.
But it's your interpretation of a book.
Yes, but that not all interpretations are necessarily equal. The young Earth creationist...
Of course, but we're talking about your subjective interpretation. Therefore, there is no objective giver in your belief system because you're picking and choosing what to take allegorically and what to take literally based on your preference.
Okay, even if I grant you that, what does that have to do with the theistic position on morality? Because as I've already said, I've just
pointed out you have no objective moral giver because it's all subjective based on your personal choice.
Well, can I put this another way? Poppy, do you eat shellfish?
Yes, on occasion.
Do you wear polyester or polycotton mixes?
I have no idea.
Do you shave your sideburns?
No.
Or does somebody else shave them for you?
No.
Well, you must do because your hair is regularly cut.
So what Sound is saying is people pick and choose what they want to agree to in the Bible, whatever fits their current worldview. Therefore, people who do that are subjective in their morals. They claim that they come from an objective giver, but they pick and choose what those objective morals are. Therefore, they can no longer be objective.
The problem with that argument is that the commands you referenced, Sound, were later retracted because the circumstances changed such that they were no longer useful or necessary.
But again, you're taking parts of the Bible. You admitted that the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve were allegorical, but your only defense to that was because that was what you choose to believe. You have no objective morals because everything about the Bible and your belief system is subjective based on your personal choice.
You have an entire series called Creationists Butcher Science explaining some of the reasons I believe that story is allegorical.
Okay, but we're not talking about me. We're talking about you trying to defend the theistic point. And there is no objective morals in any religion because it's pick and choose.
I mean, again, the command. How is even if the Garden of Eden? How is that a commandment? How is that something that's pick and choose?
I'm just pointing out why you're saying there's nothing that God can do that would be immoral. But if God were truly omnipotent and omniscient, he knew that putting that in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve would cause the downfall of man according to the Bible, and he would have to constantly wipe out the wickedness of his own creation until the point of Revelations in the Christian Bible, where he would come back and destroy everyone, whisk them up to heaven, or just leave them slaughtered.
Yes, and my criticism of that point is that that evidently is not a literal account.
But that's the thing. You're saying that there's nothing that God can do that would be immoral, and the entire Bible is God being a total bastard.
I disagree with that point, but...
So God wiping out everything except for 2 or 7 pairs of everything, or 8 people on a boat is not immoral.
Also evidently did not really happen. That one is a symbolic allegory. The ark is...
But how do you know? You're choosing what to believe in the Bible. If the Bible constantly has parts that are allegorical, why can't all of it be allegorical?
The first... Yeah, it just so happens you picked 2 parts that are extremely close together. The first 11 chapters of Genesis are obviously allegorical.
I'm just saying, you're picking and choosing. How do you know which are allegorical and how do you know which are literal?
I have several sources of information. What is necessary theology, what isn't, what is in conflict, what has its literal interpretation being in conflict with modern science, and what is compatible, what is obviously what can be explained as what it would allegorically mean, what shows signs of being allegorical and what doesn't. The first 11 chapters of Genesis, particularly Noah's flood and the creation story, scream allegory at the top of their lungs.
So the virgin birth of Christ and creating or doing miracles couldn't possibly be allegorical?
No, they couldn't, because they don't scream allegory in the same way, and there's nothing they can reasonably be allegorical.
Raising people from the dead.
Bear, I'm going to cut you off there a minute because I think you've spoken enough now, and
I'm just trying to point to him that he's picking and choosing what he considers to be objective morals, and that's
well, I know, but I think we're going in circles slightly on this one.
The Bible is not my source of moral knowledge. My source of moral knowledge is my moral intuition, which points me towards what is right and wrong.
Just like every atheist, so you have no difference from them.
The Bible is utterly irrelevant to this discussion.
Okay, I'm just saying, you have the exact same subjective viewpoint that atheists do, so what does it matter what atheists believe?
The issue is where does our intuition come from? Is it something that evolved, or is our moral intuition somehow...
Yes, it evolved. We have animals in the animal kingdom that have morals.
I realize I got that.
Okay, can we have...
I realized I phrased that poorly. Let me repeat my question, rephrase it a little bit. Is morality itself, the morality our intuition picked up on, is it solely an illusion, a product of human evolution, or is it that our intuition is picking up on an objective morality?
I would have to say that it would be an evolutionary advantage to have morality.
I mean,
don't kill,
God,
don't steal, don't...
The thing is, if God is the ultimate cause of the universe, then he could have set it up such that evolution would occur the way he wanted it to.
But you just admitted that the beginning of the Bible was allegorical, so how do you know that God even created the universe? How do you know it wasn't already here?
Because he says later that he did create...
How do you know that isn't allegorical?
Chris, I think we're going in circles in this one. Yoshi's been waiting very patiently for some time now to ask a question, so I'd like to move over to him if I may.
Oh, well, my question was going to be, even if the Bible, even if the Adam and Eve story is an allegory, I don't really think it's important anymore, but I was just going to say, how could God punish the humans for eating the apple if before the apple they didn't know what right or wrong was, therefore they couldn't have known it was wrong to eat the apple, even if God said so?
The trees, here's something funny about the young earth creationist interpretation. It requires that they already have eternal life in the Garden of Eden, while simultaneously they have a tree with the ability to give them eternal life. It's the most bizarre thing, and that's another thing that points as an allegory, that the trees are actually, the only 2 trees that are named are the important ones. And fruit is, I think, every other time fruit is mentioned in the Bible, with, I think, one exception. It's either, every time fruit is mentioned in the Bible, to my knowledge, it's usually completely symbolic. There's one instance where I think it's actually both literal and symbolic, and yes, the Bible can pull that off. But the Bible is completely irrelevant to a discussion of theistic morality. So, I mean, what
it isn't irrelevant. How do you know that God exists except through the Bible?
There are several arguments, but what we're discussing is whether or not objective morality exists.
But who do you attribute the objective morality to?
I attribute it to God because He's the only...
But how do you know God exists?
Via several other arguments.
What arguments? They're all based on the Bible.
No, they're not.
Then
I mean,
how does someone create the term God? How does someone know that this entity exists?
We would be changing the subject, and now we would be talking about kalam. Now we would be talking about fine-tuning, and I don't want to change the subject that much.
No, I'm just... You're saying that you get it from several arguments. All those arguments are based on the Bible being literal or true. Otherwise, you have nothing that points to a God.
Kalam Cosmo wasn't even formulated by Christians. It was formulated by Muslims.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about you believe God is the objective moral giver. How do you know God exists?
Because for several reasons. One, you can arrive at it logically with arguments like kalam, fine-tuning, or at least my versions of them. And secondly, we can derive from logic. We can essentially build Christianity just from logic, and then we can look down and say, hey, there's a religion saying exactly what we just worked out with what must necessarily be the case, but with what we can work out is the case with our logical faculties. That's probably the correct religion. That's where I get it from. And from there I gain access to the Bible as the Word of God, because if He is God, He would give us a guide of some sort, surely.
Well, first, you just spent a lot of time saying that the Bible is largely allegorical and the aspects of how the universe came about.
But can we give somebody else a chance to think? I don't know if there's anybody else in.
Well, nobody else is jumping in.
Well, I have a question that I would like to ask.
Well, let's just get to his points first, son. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Number one, you just argue that the Bible is allegorical in the sense that God created the universe and started everything. So we can't say that logically the Christian belief is built on logic, because you just said it's built on stories. Two.
No, I did not.
Wait. I let you talk.
Yes, Puppy, can you let Bear finish, please?
Yeah. Secondly, monotheism is an invention of the Egyptians that happened well after polytheism. If a single God is the logical conclusion of what we see around the universe, why was it an invention of somebody who wanted to be the one true pharaoh and the direct descendant or the direct line to a single God, rather than someone who takes his orders from many gods?
Just because monotheism had a political advantage elsewhere doesn't mean it's true. I mean, global warming is politically helpful to the left. That doesn't mean that global warming denialism is accurate.
Global warming is accurate.
Climate change.
I know, it is. Exactly. That's my point. Just because it's politically helpful to the those to the left of to those who are politically to the left, that doesn't actually mean it's wrong.
Okay, but that has nothing to do with the fact that monotheism is an invention that happened in Egypt, well after gods were already thought of as existing in humankind.
What he's saying is monotheism is something that's thought of. Meanwhile, climate change is something that we realize happens based on evidence.
I'm also saying that monotheism was an after effect, not the logical conclusion that human beings thought of when they thought of a higher power.
I think that since there's so much human history, we only have human history for the past, 10,000 years. I don't think it's possible to say... I mean, humans existed long before we had human history. The first Homo sapiens were 100,000 or so years ago, I believe, and we are we have recorded history. I think the oldest human artifact is 35,000 years old.
No, the oldest human artifact is close to about 1.5 to 2 million years old. We have stone tools that are that old.
Okay, but I'm talking about... Okay, but a record speaking at least, we don't have anything to tell us that monotheism really did originate in the first place. We have records of it. I don't see any reason why we should believe that the first place we have record of it, given how much history is before that we know essentially nothing about. I don't see why we have any reason to believe that because monotheism originated there, why can't he have co-opted it from somewhere else, that co-opted it from somewhere else, that co-opted it eventually from when humanity was first arising, when God revealed himself to the first sentient species on Earth. Why can't that have happened?
Well, good that you brought that up, because Christianity is built on another religion that is built on the Egyptian monotheistic religion. So therefore, your logical conclusion that Christianity is true is based on your argument that we don't know that it came from somewhere else. It could have been co-opted. Yeah, it was co-opted at least twice. And it came from earlier civilizations that were polytheistic, and that the Great Flood, the creation myth, the Great Paradise are all parts of those earlier civilizations.
This is a curious thing. Why is it that the heaven of Christianity is actually radically different from the heavens of other religions? Particularly, I'm thinking of right now Islam, because it's the one I'm most familiar with. Isn't the heaven of most religions essentially a sex fest? Isn't my mind?
No, because Judaism has a slightly different belief about heaven than Christianity.
I mean, yeah, that's because they have less information to work off of. And can we please get off of the Bible, because it's so utterly, fantastically irrelevant to this discussion?
It is totally relevant, because you have no basis for a Christian God without the Bible.
But that's not what we're discussing. What I came in to discuss was I was coming in to discuss the argument from disagreement that was made by Oliver. I made the point that disagreement on the circumstances surrounding an act is a just as likely source of the moral disagreement, of the disagreement on whether or not something is moral, than an actual difference in the morality that people perceive is. And nobody has come back on that point, because C.S. Baer has been just irrelevantly speaking on the Bible, which has no bearing.
I was tackling your question.
Well, can I ask a question now, which is kind of, I'll try and bring it back more to where we were before. But what I want to know is, I asked you earlier, I quoted at you some commandments from Leviticus, I think, and you said that the moral standards laid down in the Old Commandment are overturned in the New Commandment. And my question would be, first of all, if that is the case, then why do so many Christians still point to the Ten Commandments, which are an Old Testament, Old Testament commandments? The other question is that there are plenty of commandments in the New Testament which I very much doubt that you hold to as well, such as, if your right eye causes you to sin, you must pluck it out.
That was referring to a cultural turn of phrase at the time. That wasn't something that he actually meant, because I mean, clearly he never stopped his disciples after knowing that they had sinned and stopped them and made them cut their limbs off.
But then it never actually says anywhere in the Bible that is overturned, and it certainly never says explicitly that Jesus is speaking in metaphorical terms when he says that.
Hold on. I mean, if you want to talk to somebody about the commandments of Jesus, I have a very basic understanding of some of the ones that are considered to be more egregious. You should watch the video by the YouTube user SkepticTV. That's the apologist JP Holdings channel.
I'd like to interrupt so we don't keep rambling. You asked to be part of the show to defend the theist's point. Now you're telling us you're not well versed enough to argue on that point.
Okay, that's fair. Hold on, let me I will have to rapidly Google in order to find the answer to that exact point, because I know them for most of the arguments you would bring up, but you did happen to hit me on one that I. My understanding is that it's a cultural turn of phrase from that time, and that's as deep as my understanding is for that specific one.
But I'll give you some time while you're looking that up. But I always don't feel pressurized. But as I say, I just never understand why. Because I had this discussion with Nephilim Free not too long ago, and I said I asked him if he wears polyester and the like, which of course goes against Leviticus commandments. And he said that a lot of these are overturned. He gave me a biblical passage. I can't remember what it was. But the thing is that, as I say, when you see Ray Comfort, for instance, trying to convince people that abortion is wrong, he'll say that it says in the Ten Commandments, "Thou shalt not kill," etc. I want to know how it is that it can be justified that that commandment wasn't overturned, and so they can carry on clinging to those, whereas they can choose to reject the ones which say, "Don't plant wheat and barley in the same field."
I mean, my understanding, the three that you're talking about, I know the answers to the other two. You really did pick the one I did not know, and that I'm having to now go look up. Talk to me about the turning the other cheek, the resisting. Oh, talk to me about those ones, and I will. Hold on.
Because I've got a list in front of me here, a list of commandments in the New Testament, and most of them I think are in Romans and Corinthians. In Romans it says not to get drunk.
Okay, is that?
And he says, "If thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out and cast it from thee." And he says the same, "If thy right hand offend thee." Why the left eye and hand, I'm not entirely sure.
Maybe he was left-handed.
And also, "If thy foot offend thee, cut it off" as well. Which is in Mark, I think.
Okay, hold on.
Oh, I do apologise. It's not from Romans. That's MT. Not very good on my Bible.
Well, I also want to point out that we have 38 minutes left of this show.
Okay, hold on. Okay, then please change the. By any means, please change the subject to something I know the answer to, as I desperately try to look this up.
I mean, if you don't know, then that's fine. We won't ask you to look this stuff up. But I'm just wondering, because I mean, I don't have to go with those specific examples. I just want to know how it is that when it is said that certain Old Testament commandments have been overturned, why it is that we somehow know that other ones haven't, and there are also several commandments in the New Testament which are quite happily overlooked by a lot of modern day Christians. I don't need to specific examples.
There are three that you could possibly be talking about. The cutting off the hand one, which I'll link you to a video that answers I think all of them. If you would unkick me in the chat as the Fish of Time show, then I would paste it in there.
Okay, so we will have to let you go in a few minutes, but oh dear, I've got three.
I think that's on his channel, but I think it's with the video playing. That one takes care of them.
I should say I do apologise to people in the chat room who've been trying to get in to ask a question. I've only just noticed that I have had 3 contact requests during the show. I've got a lot of
Yes, we've had Puppy on long enough. Let's move on, please.
At the Fish of Time show, that's actually was me trying to get into another account.
Okay. Thank you very much for calling in, Puppy. Unfortunately, we have to move on, but thank you very much.
Unfortunately, CS Bear couldn't talk about something relevant. He had to co-op the entire conversation with...
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Puppy,
goodbye.
Just go. So
Right,
that's another reason we don't have Puppy on. He asked a question, it's responded to, and he goes, "That wasn't what I was talking about." When we ask him to defend what he was on, he's like, "I'm not an expert in it, let me go Google it."
No,
Then he makes personal remarks about everyone.
No, I think we have a bit of a queue. I'm not sure. I think Skeptical Heretic might have been first in line. Skeptical Heretic, did you want to ask us something? Because I think you were first in the line. I do apologise.
Well,
starting to run out of time.
Can we remove the people who shouldn't be in this call anymore?
Yeah. Oh, if you can do that, then by all means, please.
I can't. SkepticTV has to.
Okay. This is my first time doing this.
I miss Colin. He was cool.
Yeah.
I'll bring the skeptical heretic in. Oh, okay, if he says feel free to skip me. We hopefully will come back to you. I think next in line is Big Lundy. I'll bring him into the call and then I'll see about moving the others while you're talking.
Technical difficulties brought to you by the Magic Chamber Show.
We have got a test card for when stuff goes wrong. Hello, Big Lundy.
Hey, how's everybody going?
We're very well, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Doing very good. Hey, I just wanted to address a couple issues. Who was it that said that they felt evolution kind of instilled morality into us?
I think we all share that sentiment.
Well, I did say that morality is a byproduct of evolutionary biology, yes.
Well, I have agreed with that. I think we have all evolved to have morals. But, well, not morals, values. We have all evolved to have values. Most of us value the same things, like human life, human equality, things that help us function as a social species, which is what we've evolved to be. However, the thing is, most rather educated theists that I've spoken to argue that this is actually the source of objective morality, that we're all hardwired to be moral. And I kind of want to clear something up because that's certainly not the case. The case is that it's true, that it is objectively true that we all subjectively have values. Where those values are and how many people hold which values where is completely random. You could have 20 different people and they all have values set at different settings. A rapist certainly has its own personal pleasure as a value higher than that of caring about his rape victim's well-being, obviously. That was just the first thing I wanted to clear up real quick. The second thing is the theist call you had on here. I felt like the conversation kind of dragged on because, for me, I tend not to get into the Bible a whole lot because when you start talking about Bible verses, there's apologetics for everything. There's so many different contradictions, so many different immoral verses, but apologetics can be found for all of it. So I just tend to blow right past the Bible as being some sort of, well, this isn't a moral verse. How do you account for this? I don't like doing that. What I tend to do is I just do an argument ad absurdum. Just let's presume that your God is the source of morals for a second. What can we conclude from that? Does that conclude that we now have absolute moral oughts? No. Because you can't really define what's moral when your God is the source of all morals. Whenever I talk to a theist about morals, I always bring up the Euthyphro dilemma. It's always extremely important to me. Because that's the crux of the issue. Is something good because God commands it, or is it just good and God's pointing us in the right direction? And if the former is true, then what's good is completely arbitrary, and God can command murder, and murder is then okay. And if the latter is true, then God's obviously unnecessary, not the source of objective morality. Now, but I think it's good to recognize that there is a third answer to the question that people have adopted, and that's that neither. What is good is what reflects God's eternal, unchanging nature. Something to bear in mind here is that actually doesn't answer the question at all. What it does, puts it in different terms. Usually I ask the question followed up by asking, is murder wrong? Is murder morally wrong? And they inevitably answer yes. So I say, okay, why is murder wrong? Well, from The answer is the Euthyphro dilemma, and it's wrong because it doesn't reflect God's eternal, unchanging nature. Okay, and why is God's eternal, unchanging nature that of condemning murder instead of enforcing murder? Well, because murder is wrong. Yeah, and why is murder wrong? Well, because murder is not a part of God's eternal, unchanging nature. Yeah, and why is that? Yeah, it becomes circular. You can demonstrate that in a theistic mindset, what is good and what is bad doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
I know I
Anyone
kind of
respond to that? I apologise that I'm not listening to this because I'm currently trying to work out how this damn thing works.
I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here.
Well, to my understanding as a psychology student, the way our brains come up with morality is we're all born with certain empathies for things, and especially for others, and we base our morality based on how we empathize with other people. Like, if I kill this person, combined with consequences to ourselves. Like, most people, if given the chance to kill someone consequence-free, they'll choose not to because they feel empathy for that person because their brain is designed to do that because we're a social species. Meanwhile, if they're offered to steal something with no consequence, they'll probably steal it because they can't see the person that they're stealing from, and so they're less likely to empathize with them. Meanwhile, if there's like money next to a beggar and they're guaranteed no consequences if they steal it, they'll probably not steal it because they're emphasizing with the beggar. So
well, that's really true. I mean, I've met people who would actually steal money from beggars.
No, they probably have low empathy.
Probably. I don't know if there is a way to measure the amount of empathy people have. Is there? I don't know.
There's a scale that's been not really a scale, but a level of moral not objective, a more moral development inside the human mind that some psychologists have suggested that it's basically how morally mature you are, like whether or not you only care about yourself or whether you're willing to go out of your way and put yourself at a disadvantage to help others. But that's just that's mostly just a way of measuring opinion, but because it's not something that you can physically measure.
Well, most people tend to fall under, when hard pressed to actually define their own morals, most people, I found, simply tend to go under a utilitarian mindset of what morals are. Suffering is not a preferred state, so I'm going to diminish suffering wherever I can. Health and well-being are preferred states, so I'm going to increase those whenever I can. The thing is, when talking about morals, the reason why it's so easy to demonstrate why that morals aren't objective is because there is no perfect definition of morals. Because you can always come up with some abstract, completely out of the way example of something that would be inconsistent with what you find to be immoral in this utilitarian mindset. Like, say I caught a murderer, and in order for the victim's family to feel better, they just need to know that he's caught and being taken care of. And then I just sent the murderer away to live alone in a giant paradise. That would satisfy all requirements for a moral obligation. But why would I put him in jail rather than send him to paradise, where he wouldn't be affecting anybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's this something that I was hoping we would cover actually is there is this idea obviously that people have to be punished for their crimes, and it's one of the arguments in favour of the death penalty is that it's just a very good way of making sure that these people are removed from society, which obviously prison also achieves. But something more definite about the death penalty is also this problem around the death penalty whereby some of the methods of execution are enjoyable, one of them being asphyxiation. And the question is, should the death penalty, if it's used at all, should it be something which is painful and unpleasant and can go wrong and people can survive it, or should it be something which is, if anything, enjoyable? They just sort of drift off and it's fine, whereas the people that they've affected in life have had all kinds of misery. I know I'm not answering any questions, but I'm just throwing these things out.
I'd definitely say that if the death penalty was legal, I would prefer it to be quick and painless.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason to sink down to the murderer's level when it comes to that. There's so many. I'd rather not. I don't like addressing the death penalty because there's so many reasons I'm against it, both secular and emotional reasons. Like victim families don't even are even split on whether or not the death penalty should be instilled or not. When you have families of victims saying, "Yeah, we would prefer him not getting the death penalty," like you've almost lost your only argument in favor of the death penalty. I don't know. I'm just not for it in like any way.
No, I don't think you'll find anybody else here who is. But yeah, it is one of these questions: is are we supposed to be punishing these people, or are we supposed to be simply keeping them out of harm's way? Because, as you say, from a moral standpoint, that's the most important thing. Whether or not you have an eye for an eye is a lot more of a grey area.
Well, we've certainly evolved our morals far past Hammurabi's code, so... Well, I mean, hell, I don't know how long ago it was, but who the hell was it that said, if the whole world were an eye for an eye, everybody would be blind? I think, was that Gandhi? I don't know.
I think it was, yes.
Oh, yeah. So, like, we've realized for a long time that that's not an effective system of,
exactly.
Yeah. Though it's not like the current system we have is all that effective either.
Well, no. But it is strange as well that we seem to find a lot of the families of murders and rapes and so on are willing to forgive their perpetrators. And, I mean, obviously the legal system still has an obligation to punish them, but from the family standpoint, that isn't particularly necessary, and perhaps it is better to try and forget these sorts of things and move on.
Well, I don't know how it works. Is it, if the family of the victim in no way wants to press charges, can anything actually be done to the murderer? I'm
not sure.
Yeah.
Does anyone else know? I know you're keeping.
I don't think that would matter.
You think the state would just arrest him anyway?
Yeah, if it's definitely for murder.
Okay. Because I don't know.
Because the victims' families may not want to press charges, but I think the victim, if they could have a voice, would.
They just come to the assumption that if the victim could, then they would.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But
I think it is the prerogative of the legal system to try and keep these people out of harm's way, and so that is why murder is a crime, irrespective of whether or not the victim or the victim's family would want to press charges. We have to have some kind of guarantee that people who are capable of committing murder have fewer opportunities to do so again.
Mm-hmm.
And again, with the death penalty, the victims' families will usually say that after the killer is executed, the families don't feel any better about it. So this whole thing that goes on in America where, if the family wants the death penalty, we should try for that thing, is completely useless.
It's not emotionally true. It's not secularly sound. I mean, it's even financially ruinous. To kill, like, what was it, 13 people, it costs what? A couple billion? I don't know what the hell it was in California.
Couple million.
In California, they did some study where it cost an inordinate amount of money to kill like 13 people, and they would have millions if they would have just put them in jail for life.
Yeah, a lot of people say that the death penalty is cheaper than imprisonment, but if you take into account all the legal issues and the appeals and so on, I mean, I don't have any numbers to substantiate it, but I think it's probably likely that it does cost more to execute people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to sound like a bit of a tyrant now, but Keith, who is Keith1Y in the chat has asked to join the call, and
Shit.
he seems from the chat on Blog TV to be to be a little bit of a troll. So I thought I'd put it to a vote and see whether we bring Keith in or whether we keep the current caller in a little bit longer. If you'd like to say that.
He seems like a troll, like completely. He says stuff like "God tells me that things are wrong, so I know." He can't possibly be serious.
That's the thing, though. Some people are like this, are serious.
Keith, you're asking in chat, saying I thought this was a debate, and it is a debate, but we'd like to keep it as a serious debate. And so, if you are prepared to be serious, then we'd like to have you on the show. But what do the others think? Bear?
I typed it in. You can read.
Yes, I know, but the people listening to this can't read. You are welcome to talk, Chris. I know I told you to be quiet when Puppet was on the show, but I think it was too much of a one-way debate, and I wanted other people to have a chance to say something.
I think since Chris doesn't want to deal with him, I'm guessing that's a no.
No, I'm dealing with him in text, and I just posed a question he cannot answer.
I think what I think I'll do is I think I'll remove Big Lundy from the chat. Thank you for calling in.
No problem.
It's been great having you on the show.
Thanks for coming in.
And I think I will bring in Keith in just a moment, because it could end up with that.
My question posed to Keith, because apparently he says he missed it, was how does he know that reality exists and isn't an artificial construct running on a computer where his process is accessing it? And he cannot use anything in that artificial construct, what he believes actually exists, to prove one way or another, because it could be part of that artificial construct. And he will not answer it.
Well,
no, Keith, you did not answer it. You used something in that artificial construct to argue it exists.
He said that he wants to challenge an atheist notion by coming on the show. But I think we will bring him in, but I'm going to save it for a little bit because I suspect when I do that might be the end of the show because it will just deteriorate into a shouting match. So I think we'll just take a few minutes now to discuss anything else that anybody wants to do before we bring Keith in. Before I carry on, does anybody else have anything they'd like to discuss?
Murder's wrong, okay?
Sorry?
No, the news is a joke.
Never mind.
Jokes are bad.
But what I wanted to discuss was the golden rule, because I think Jesus is credited with saying it, and a lot of people say that the golden rule really is all you need to know, because the golden rule simply says, do not do to others as you would not have them do unto you. And that is a self-regulating system. My question is, does it really work in practice? And I understand that with a lot of things like murder and so on, then obviously not many people would like to be murdered. But I think there's a lot of disputes have fallen out whereby somebody has done something which, even if it's just something as trivial as borrowing something that somebody else hasn't given permission for, and when they say, I didn't give you permission to touch my stuff, and they say, well, you're welcome to use my stuff whenever you want. Obviously, it's not a completely reciprocal system. So I wanted to have your opinion on that, whether you think the golden rule really works in practice. Anyone, or have I confused people as usual?
No, it just requires a good little bit of thought. I would say it works for certain situations. Obviously, in others it wouldn't work. Like the justice system wouldn't work if you were treated if we treated criminals the way we would want to be treated.
Yeah, as you say, I think it works for a lot of the big stuff, but I'm not too sure about. Sorry, I'm trying to do 12 things at once here as well. Yeah, but I do rather wonder whether it works for everything, and I don't honestly think that we could obviously get by with that as our only legal system. Obviously, that's completely. With Keith Lee still having a argument in chat. I think actually, seeing as we have got only 15 minutes left, I think I'll bring Keith in now and we can have a good old shouting match like we were having last night with Ned.
Oh, good. This ought to be fun.
This is also being recorded. I shouldn't want for Keith's sake, so let's see if we can get him in. He has just got also an amazing Skype icon, so this could be interesting.
Should be none of us can see it.
I'm not sure whether that's a real photo. Hello, Keith.
Hi guys.
Hello, how are you?
I'm alright, thanks.
Good. You said you wanted to challenge an atheist notion. Well, here's your platform. Go.
Okay. Well, just to introduce myself, there's an echo. Is that something I have to put up with?
I can't hear any echo from this end.
Have you got Blog TV muted?
That
I
was
have to mute the blog, yeah. Done it. Right. Now can I hear you guys?
Yep.
Well, you should do.
Hang on. 1 second. Right, back in business, okay. Right, I'll just introduce myself. I was an atheist for 23 years, so I kind of know the atheist viewpoint. The challenge I wanted to put to you was that in order to talk objectively, you need to take some measures, you need to apply some kind of scientific approach to that, and we know how to calibrate a scale. So I've been talking a lot about having a value function by which you make decisions between one option and another.
Right.
Excuse me. And so what I would say is that if we put a value function to using the atheist worldview, if we develop a value function which allows us to make decisions like that, I'll give you 2 points which you can draw a line between and calibrate, okay? The first point I mention is that before your birth, your value was 0. So we have one absolute measured point on our scale. And at the other end of the scale, the universe is tending to heat death. We're all going to die. You're going to die. So the value of your life at that point is also 0.
Right.
So if you draw a line between those 2 points, the objective value function for any decision, anything you do, any delta that you try and make to your value, you can't do it. The value function of anything you do is 0 at any point in your life. And this is what the atheist worldview, to me, tells me. However, what I find is that you guys tend to define your value function on a bit of a bell curve, as in you subjectively make up some value, like maybe it's a good thing to get up in the morning, maybe it's a good thing to have kids, maybe it's a good thing to love, live, whatever. And yet, you're living your entire life and you're making every decision you make based on subjective reasoning, not objective, which is kind of ironic, really, when you have such high demands of empirical evidence for the rest of us. There you go.
Okay, does anyone want to tackle that? Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I already said it. First of all, you are arguing that the atheist worldview is that once you die, you have no more moral input into this world, correct?
And there's no one left either to notice.
Okay, but just at our death, correct?
The death of everything, the end of the universe, is our second absolute point.
Okay, so, but it starts at our birth, which makes no sense, because why wouldn't it start at the creation of the universe?
Well, start there if you like. What's the value of your life at the creation of the universe? Fine, I don't care. That's fine.
The value of my life is the whole of all the atoms in my body right now, which keeps changing every day, every week.
Okay.
So I'm not understanding your entire point. It's starting with a presumption that we only value ourselves, but that makes no sense because you're starting it at our birth and ending it at the end of the universe.
Yeah, not at all. I'm using the value of your life as an example. You could argue the value of anything.
Well, the value of anything depends on what you mean by value.
Yeah, correct. But define something you mean as value.
Well, let's put it this way. Do you think that space where there's absolutely no matter or energy has any value?
No, I don't.
But it's part of space-time, so it does have some weight to the entire universe.
I've got a question for you.
Well, we're still tackling your first question. I'm just trying to set up the parameters because what you've already established makes no sense.
Can you give me an objective reason with a measure which tells me it's objective for asking me that question?
I can't.
Right.
But but we're talking about your point here.
I can because I have a different way of imputing value to my life.
But that's the thing. We're not talking about how you value your own life. We're talking about the system you've already brought up, and I've shown it's nonsensical. It has absolutely no value in any discussion.
Of course
you can't even define the parts of it. You said you can start it anywhere, you can end it anywhere.
Yeah, but that's because
then it has no value.
Zero at all points. If you could tell me what the value of something is at the end of the universe, you could give a number to it or a percentage. So, okay, and then you could have a graduation between the 2 points. But the fact that
how do you know how the universe will end?
Zero everywhere.
How do you know the universe will end? I mean, it may be a big crunch. It just may be a stalemate where there's no energy left to do anything.
Well, I actually believe in a steady state universe, but that's another topic.
Right, but that's a belief. You don't know. So how can you put value at the end of the universe if you don't even know how it ends?
I don't know because I don't presume to go that far ahead, but according to
but that's the point. You establish...
Well,
wait.
Actually, sorry, I skipped something.
Let me explain to you why this is nonsensical.
No, it's not
putting value to... Yes, you're putting values to things you admit you can't know.
Yes, I can. Second order thermodynamics.
You just admitted you don't know how the universe will end. You believe it'll end one way, but you can't presume to know.
Yes, I can.
You just admitted you couldn't.
I changed my mind. I forgot about second order thermodynamics.
Well, then you changed your mind and it wasn't objective. It's subjective.
But the laws of science, don't you believe?
But no, you said you had an objective means to this. You just admitted it was subjective based on whatever whim you have. Therefore, an entire system you have is no longer objective.
The second law of thermodynamics says that everything decays away. Okay?
The second law of thermodynamics...
It does not say that.
The second law of thermodynamics does not have anything to do with the fate of the universe. We can draw in inferences. If we know that the universe is doing a particular thing, then thermodynamics will imply X. But the second law of thermodynamics does not exclude a steady-state universe, and it does not exclude a big crunch by its very nature.
What I'm saying is that if you, and somebody's asking about morality in the room, that if you want to make any decision between right and wrong, you need to give an objective reason for that.
You don't need to give an objective reason. You need to get a valid reason.
Why? How do you know it's valid?
It could be valid based on many different things.
But you're just making it up as you go along. Because
no,
you
I'm
don't
not.
Objective.
I live in a civilization. I live by the laws and rules of that civilization, or I pay the consequences for disobeying those laws and rules.
The universe is tending to death. So what?
But that's the thing. Is it tending toward a big crunch, or is it tending toward a zero energy state?
So what? You won't be there. Doesn't matter.
But I'm asking you.
It doesn't matter. You won't be there.
Yes, it does. You're presuming to know something. Wait, Keith. You're presuming to know something, saying that it has value in your entire system, but yet you can't tell me which way it's going.
That is the only option according to the first and second laws of thermodynamics.
But that's not what the second law of thermodynamics says. And there are physicists who say it's going toward a big crunch, and there's others who say it's going toward a zero energy state.
The amount of useful energy in the universe is decaying. At the end of the day, you will be dead. You will not have a.
But how do you know it's not tending toward a big crunch?
Does it make any difference? You won't be here.
Well, no, it doesn't.
But you're saying it's irrelevant.
The fact that we will die.
You don't know, and you're saying, what does it matter? It matters because you can't know, therefore you don't know how the universe will end.
I'm saying that according to your atheist mindset, you have no basis for making any decision at all.
I have a basis. It's based on valid logic.
It's subjective. How do you know logic works?
But you just admitted that your whole value system was subjective. You changed it at a whim. You just had said it was objective and then changed your mind about something about it.
Can I respond
Wait,
to...
Sound, I'm trying to... I want him to respond to my points. Please stop going off the points.
Okay.
The point I'm making, and I'll say it again, is that before your life has 0 value, and after your death, and after the death of anybody else who wants to anything, they have 0. It has 0 value as well.
But is it the death
Now,
of the
if I-
person or the death of everything?
Death of everyone.
So why is it the
Because-
death of everyone but my birth?
Because you could argue that if someone remembers you, there is value in your being remembered.
But how do we know that
Dog.
the atoms in our body won't have another use somewhere else? Wouldn't that be value?
Well, their energy is going to decay away, isn't it, according to the second law?
But that's the thing. It's not the death of everyone. It's the death of the universe. And you admitted you don't know how the universe will end, so therefore you can't put a value to that.
I do, because I believe the second law.
But you don't know how the universe will
Every-
end. You admitted you don't know how it will end, and you're misinterpreting
No,
the
no,
second
no,
law
no,
of
no.
thermodynamics.
Hang on, I admit I am not going to observe it myself, but according to the first and second law of thermodynamics...
Stop
every
saying
process-
according to those because you clearly don't
Every-
understand what the second law of thermodynamics says.
Every process in the universe which requires a transformation from one energy state to another results in an increase in entropy. There is no process in the universe which is responsible or can be attributed to a decrease in entropy. Every process produces...
Entropy in a closed system will tend toward equilibrium,
the universe is a closed system.
as far as we know.
Right, so therefore you're suggesting that there's something outside of the system. and
No,
that's
I'm
what-
suggesting we can't know everything, neither can you. Therefore, you can't state you know how the universe will end. Therefore, your entire system of value is subjective, not objective.
Okay, the question is, what the hell does the universe have to do with morality, okay? What I'm saying is that according to the theistic view, you get your value from a couple of... There's a slight assumption difference, okay? You assume that your soul and your mind ends at death. I assume it carries on and is eternal. So
Okay.
if my assumption is correct that my life and my consciousness is eternal, then say, for example, making a friend, which will last eternally, has eternal value. So I can make a calibration, I can make a value function out of, say, how many friends I have. And before I'm born, I can say that's 0 value, and in a million years' time, I can say I'll know everybody that's ever been born, because we're all eternal, and so I can put a score of 1 million, okay? And I can then decide if I murder someone, that'll piss them off, so that's a negative count, so I'd rather not murder them. You see, so I've got a basis for making a decision. Do I talk to you because I might make a friend? Or do I kill you because I might lose a friend? I've got a basis for making decisions based on my initial assumption gives me the ability to define an objective measure as to why I do option A over option B.
Okay, but if
Okay.
it's based on
And so
assumptions,
I-
how can it be objective?
You're allowed
I-
assumption.
I
You
hate
have
to
have
break.
some
Wait,
assumption.
sound, please.
Well, I hate to break this off, but we've got 2 minutes left of the show, and unfortunately, I've
Can
got
we
to do
extend the show at all?
some wrap-ups and some reminders.
I'm just saying. You're saying that all of this value system is based on objective choices, but you admitted it's based on the assumptions you have, which you cannot prove, which you cannot show to be valid, and which you're misinterpreting different laws of physics to say that it does X or Y. So it's
you don't
totally
seem to believe
subjective
in
based on your personal bias. There's
Not
no
based on
objective morality
knowledge of
anywhere
science.
in your system. Because you declare something to be objective doesn't mean it is. It's completely subjective based on your whim.
I'm just going to say for the record that I'm going to let this show
Until you
go 10
have
minutes
some
over, and then I'm going to have to
external
stop it.
Until you have an external reference.
But you're assuming the external inference or the entity is there. You have no evidence of it. You have to assume it
It has to.
exists.
It
It
has
doesn't have to.
because nothing makes sense without it.
It does make sense because I'm living a life without it. I haven't killed anyone,
But you've got no reason to.
but I do. I live in
Why haven't you?
society.
Why haven't you killed someone?
I live in society. I play by the rules or I pay the consequences, and I choose not to pay the consequences, so I live in society.
But what makes society? Society won't be here. Who cares?
But neither
Why not
will I.
enjoy
So
yourself?
what does it matter of my choices if I'm not going to be around, according to you?
Right.
So that's not objective. That's subjective again. Again, you're attributing to something you can't show exists because you can't find any logical reason to do things without something you assume to exist. And I say I can do the exact same thing without assuming that objective entity exists.
I personally don't assume it to exist. Because
you said it was your assumption.
I'm saying in the logical process we've discussed so far, it's an assumption. Okay.
So if it's an assumption, how does it become not an assumption?
Well, from my personal experience, I met God and He spoke to me.
Okay, but that's your personal bias because you want it to be true.
Not necessarily. I didn't actually, because I was an atheist. But hey,
I don't think you are an atheist because you clearly don't understand what atheism is.
No, I was an atheist when I was 23.
You clearly weren't.
But can I ask you something here?
Okay,
yeah.
Go ahead, kids.
You said you were an atheist. What stopped you from murdering and killing and whatnot when you were an atheist?
Good question. I didn't think about it logically.
Well, you don't have to have thought about it logically to
just feeling, basically.
Have a feeling to not want to kill somebody, etc.
It's feelings, but feelings are illusionary, according to the atheist. They're just chemicals in the brain. So can they be relied upon?
Can we please stop atheists in here who say this is what atheists believe? Atheists, the only thing that atheists have together is a projection that Keith, shut up for a second. The only thing atheists believe together is that there are no gods. That's it. Stop saying what atheists believe outside of that.
So you have no external reference to give you any objective value to anything, or any meaning to anything, or any purpose to anything.
But neither do you. You're creating the objective entity for you to push all of your beliefs and systems onto. It doesn't exist outside of your beliefs.
No, because I am taking measurable and repeatable.
No, what you're doing is saying that he talked to you, therefore he must exist. It is only you who are experiencing this in that two-way situation.
No, I'm
That's
not,
it. I'm not hearing it.
In my therapy work, what we do is I set up a framework for analysing people's emotional state and for detecting certain things. Now, if you're going to detect temperature, you need to design an experiment that's appropriate to detecting the thing you're looking for. So I'm designing an experiment which uses repeatable phenomena to detect certain aspects of God, okay? So I've got an analytical framework which allows me to measure certain things and define certain objective things, and I am using
But
people...
if you're defining them, they're subjective based on your whim.
But how does science work? It works through
But science can and is wrong. It is often checked and rechecked, and when something better, explaining everything, comes along, that overturns the old ideas.
So you put faith in some unknown rather than what
I don't put faith in any unknown.
So
everything I value is based on the current situation, the valid logic that applies to it. It's not based on any objective morals because no such thing exists. You just admitted it's based on what you believe. It is an assumption you start off with, and everything points to it.
It's based on the only external reference I had. You're asking the question, how do I...
But you don't know whether that exists. You don't know if there's something else. You don't know if it could be multiple things. You can't test it because you believe something. Therefore, you make that assumption and leap of logic.
You can test
you don't know.
To the extent that you...
You can't test it because it's your belief.
You can ask questions, you can...
And I asked questions, and you changed your mind on things based on a whim because you were shown that certain things of your system were wrong. So you based it on your personal experience and your personal beliefs, and you had no objective idea of what... You have no objective basis.
They were just arbitrary. It doesn't matter what...
If it's arbitrary, it's subjective. Therefore, it's not objective.
Exactly, that's the atheist worldview. My point exactly.
That is what your system is. You just admitted it.
My system is defining the atheist worldview
Your
that there is no
system
value
is
to anything.
your system is based on putting value to everything. You said it could start at the beginning of the universe and end at the end of the universe.
But the value is 0. I'm not putting value to anything.
You just said certain things had value.
The question I'm asking is, how come atheists give things value?
Because we choose
When I demonstrate,
based on the
that's subjective.
situation at hand.
That's subjective.
But you're doing the exact same thing. You're just saying it comes from an objective person, but you can change things on a whim.
No, I can't.
Yes, you can. You choose. Were you not? Didn't you just argue that you were an atheist who turned to Christianity?
Yes, and the reason
You
I turned to
changed your
Christianity.
belief system on a whim. It was not
No.
objective.
No, I'd based my change on an observation, which is how science works.
Based
If
on
you
an
have a
assumption you made.
No, if you have a hypothesis.
It was an assumption you made. How do you know it wasn't the Jewish God? How do you know it wasn't Allah? How do you know,
it wasn't a
one of the many
hallucination?
Greek gods?
Because it changed me.
It changed you based on your assumptions, based on your beliefs, based on what you wanted.
No, it didn't. The thing is, I'll give you an example, okay? The hardest thing in the world to change is a teenage girl's view of herself, okay? If a teenage girl believes, because of experiences she's been through, that she's but ugly, okay? If she believes that in her heart, and that's what she expressed, there is nothing under the sun that will change that point of view, okay? And this is measurable and testable. You can try it out as often as you like. You try and persuade a teenage girl that has low self-esteem that they are beautiful. It does not work.
But are you saying that no teenage girls will ever see themselves as beautiful if they first don't see themselves as beautiful?
If they've had experiences which lead them not to, then their belief as to what they are
I
is
didn't
based
ask that.
purely on their experiences.
I didn't ask that. I asked, is it possible for a teenage girl to think herself beautiful when she originally did not think she was beautiful?
It is, yes.
If it's possible, then things can change. So your entire argument was just that it's very difficult, but that doesn't mean anything.
It can change, but not without experience. Something has to happen for it.
Or it can just be
For
that
example-
she realizes something positive happens in her life.
Exactly.
But that's what's happening with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Had something happen, or you had an assumption, a belief that turns you to a different belief system. It isn't objective. It's your personal whim.
Okay. Something has to happen, even if it is a realization, that changes that perspective. You can measure the impact of buying a puppy. You can measure the impact of a placebo effect on this person's belief that they're ugly, okay? You can measure that impact. Now, I will tell you
Keith,
that if you
Keith,
want...
I'm just going to interrupt you because we're almost out of time. Keith,
Okay.
but
If
everything
we
is
praise
based on
that
your
girl-
assumption that the Christian God was what spoke to you. You have no evidence of it. It's your personal belief.
Let me
It
just
cannot be tested.
If you pray for that girl who believes she's ugly, in the moment that she's feeling she is ugly,
Keith, I'm pointing back to you.
if you pray within
Pointing
20
back to you,
seconds,
Keith.
Right,
Why do
I
you-
think I've heard enough now. I'm gonna.
Thank you. He
I'm
can't
gonna
address
call
his own shortcomings, so please excuse him from the call.
I'm gonna call an end to this now. Keith, I think that we still haven't heard enough out of you, and I think there is a fascinating debate to be had out of this. I might see about the option of either doing a Morality Part 2 show on the next episode of Skeptic TV, or possibly even we could stage a debate of some sort, but we'll have to see about that later on. I'm gonna
for you, how about the electric universe?
I'm gonna have to remove you from the call now just to wrap up the show, but we hope to. I at least hope to hear from you again soon, because I think there's a lot more to be had out of this. But thank you for calling in, Keith. Right, I'm just going to quickly make a few reminders before we wrap up the show. Most important one being that on the 10th of December, we are going to be holding a 12-hour blog TV session to raise money for the Secular Students Alliance. We'll be publicising that on our YouTube channels near the time. And a reminder that as part of the fundraiser, we are going to be holding an eBay auction, and we're appealing for anything that you've got to go in the auction that you don't want, or anything that you'd like to donate. So either go to the blog, skeptictv.net, and there's a page there on how to donate eBay items, or just email me, sound@skeptictv.net, and I'll give you all the information that you need. I don't think there's anything else left to say, is there?
I think we can wrap it up and start saying goodbye.
Yes, unfortunately, Lewis, who was hosting the show to begin with, has gone. So I guess I might as well wrap up. Thank you to all those who've been on the panel this week. We had, I'm just to juggle the Skype. We had Yoshimo1.
Hello. And goodbye.
We had the Kitch 2.
See you later.
We had Blue Juggernaut.
No guitar? Wow.
We had CS Bear.
Hey, I'll see you guys later and buy my book.
And Lewis, who's not here, unfortunately. But thank you to all those who called in. Apologies to the Skeptical Heretic. We didn't get round to you. And we may
Thank you, Sound of Silence, for hosting us.
Thank you very much. And we may have another morality show, in which case we'll try and get you on Skeptical Heretic. But that is all from us, and we will hopefully see you again in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.